Hello YouTube. Today we're going to talk about event system. So let's see what an event system is and what are events. Let's talk about events. So right now as I'm speaking, it's an event. I do the left click, it's an event. I do a right click, that's an event. And I'm breathing, it's an event. Everything is an event. So what are we going to do today? We're going to create an event system. So what does it do? It keeps track of all the events that are going to happen, and then there are some listeners to that event and all that stuff. So let me talk to you about this in detail. So this is an event. Event can be anything: left click, mouse left click, a key down, a key, press down, a key, comes up, anything. So how are we gonna add subscribers to these events? And when an event happens, we make sure that those functions are getting called, those subscribers, which can be like on, key down, okay? And then they have like this event reference, and here you can code anything that you want to code. So these are the listeners. How are we going to add listeners, and how are we going to send the events? So for that, we have a dispatcher. So what happens in the dispatcher, it keeps track of all the listeners of specified events. So whenever you say add listener, the listener gets subscribed to that specific kind of event. So it's like a map, and an event is just like a key, and for each key we have like a list of values, like it's a vector of all of those listeners, all of those functions. So then what we can do internally from our game engine is send an event, like send a mouse press event. And this should be only be able to done right now in the engine, because we have like the basic events right now, like the key down, key up, and all of those things, which are we going to incorporate later using our Windows window and our X11 window. So only our game engine should be able to send an event. And when it sends an event to the dispatcher says, okay, is there any value for this event? That means, is there any listener for this event? If there is, just call all of those listeners function. So all of these functions gets called, whichever event got triggered. That's how simple it is. And to make this video short and like not waste your time, I have already done all the coding. So let's make a new folder called events. Let's make event class. I'll explain everything to you as I'm writing it. This is our event class. This is the type of the event. This is generics. And then we have the name of the event. And then we have if the event has been handled. So by default, it's going to be false because it's a new event, or it's not handled. And when you handle it, you can set it to true. We're not going to use it right now. We're going to use it later, even though we're using it on dispatcher. I'll show you. This is like get the type. It just gives this type. Okay. And then we have this to type, which static has this event to whatever type that you want. And then you can get the name, and then you can get like if the event has been handled. So this is the dispatcher. This is just a type def for like holding that function. So anything can be here. It's a function object. So here we have listeners, and this is the key, which is the generic type class. And then we have the vector of all of these functions. Okay. Now what happens in add listener? In this, for this key, we just push this value. Okay. And what happens in the send event? Mind this I did to just make sure that this thing is only accessible in our MiniEngine. This preprocessor is only going to be defined for our MiniEngine, and we're going to do that using our CMakeList. This is the send event function. What it does, it just finds for this key in this whole list, and if there is nothing, if the iterator reaches the end, then just return, because there are no listeners for that event. But if there are listeners for that event, just get all those listeners, and if they're not handled, just call them. Okay, this is all there is to event. Now there are gonna be different types of event, and I'm just gonna make all of them and then explain it to you. So this is our window event. We can resize the window, or we can close the window right now. We can also have window paint event. You'll see, and this has like the width and height, which is the new width and height after this event occurred. Before this event occurred, what's the new width and height of the window? And this is just a window close event, nothing here. This is our mouse events. We have a mouse moved event, mouse button down, mouse button up. In the mouse moved event, it just tells us like the X and Y position of our cursor, and mouse down is like just tells us about the button that was pressed down, 1 for left mouse button, 2 for middle mouse, 3 for right mouse, and same for the up, like when the button is up. This is down, this is up. You cannot guess it, what I just did with my mouse, but yeah. Key events. So it only has a key down event and a key up event as key code of the key that was pressed down. Pretty simple. Now we have the event dispatcher and all the different kinds of event, but hey, there is no way to handle them right now. Like we need objects of this class, right? We need a handler for all these events. That's why we're gonna make a new class, which is gonna be event handler. So it knows about all the other kinds of event, and this is singleton pattern here. We have an instance of this event handler, and these are some macros to just add like the event. So if you want to add something to our window event, we have a window event dispatcher, we have a mouse event dispatcher, we have a key event dispatcher. What it then does is whatever event type that you want to subscribe to, like window resize or window close, we just call it for our window event dispatcher. We add that type of listener, and this is a binding for that function, and this is the argument that you're going to pass. So in a general case, what happens is this is a function and it belongs to this object, and when a function is a part of the class, the first argument that goes into it is like the object that it belongs to. So that's why we're placing that, and because this argument is going to be the first, so that's why the placeholder value is 1. Okay, and same for mouse and key events. And if we're in the game engine, then we're also able to send events. So it's the same thing, it's just like an event and we just send it. So this is our event handler.cp source file. We just define this value and define this function, which is like a singleton pattern. Now let's update our CMakeList file, because we need to account for all of the new things that we did. So here it is. We add this compile def, which is MiniEngine build, only for our MiniEngine, okay? And we also have the CRT secure no warnings, because prior to this we were getting warnings when we were using std local time. It gives warning when you are using an MSVC compiler, so we also add that to suppress those warnings. And next here we are having this test game, and you will notice this change that now I'm linking the MiniEngine as private. So what happens when you link this as private and you also have the target compile definition as private? So this project will not have the compile definitions of this project, which is the exact behavior we want, because we don't want our test game to have this preprocessor definition. That's why we are doing all of this as private, and this is just the project directory, which will be useful in the future when you're storing assets in the same place as your project and you want to access it. So this is like a pretty neat macro for that. Now we have all the events. Let's just try to like send some events. Okay, so this is our game and this is our render loop, and nothing much happens here. It just prints the time. Let's just push some events here. Of course it's giving me errors because I did not include our event handler. Okay, so we have our window resize event, window close event, and then we can send it. It's giving an error because we don't have that macro right now, this macro, because we did not build our game, our engine. Okay, now we also need to subscribe to these events, which we're gonna do in the game. But before that, we should add our logger and our what we just made event system here. So yeah, now we have our test game, and this is what we're gonna do with it. We're gonna delete this, and I'm gonna paste something which is really big. So nothing really scary here. Just this create game function creates a new test game, and the constructor is like add the window event listener for window resize event. Have this function on window event, which just has like this boiler template that I was telling you about. And then if the type is window close, then just print this, and if the type is window resize, then cast this event to window resize event and tell me the new width and height. Okay, and the same for mouse events, mouse moved, print the new mouse position, mouse down, mouse up, same for the key. And here we're just adding the listeners for all of these kinds of events. So what's good with this kind of approach is like you can say one function subscribes to this, and you can say that we don't want to subscribe to mouse button down, so you can just comment that. And if we run this right now, it should work. So you see that we have window resize event, the new dimensions, window close event, and our mouse button down, mouse button up, our mouse position. Okay, this 300 and -1. Let me see. Second. Oh, that's why. Oh, that's another bug with Visual Studio. Okay, good. Now this is 400, 300 key code, and this is the time format, whatever. And this is window on update, which is, I suppose, is coming from here. So this is all. We have an event system. In the next video, we're gonna have like our Windows window, and after that we're gonna have a Linux window. And I'm sorry for not loading in the past 2 months. I'm trying to find a job. I was like in an interview with some companies, and the process went really smoothly until the end. So yeah, hope you all are doing well, and thank you so much for watching. Take care. Goodbye.